We are live. You can say congratulations. We figure it out later. That's okay. Huh? All right. I will call the June meeting for the Redevelopment Commission to order. First thing we have on here is the approval of the agenda. And I have one item to add, and that's the letter that Carol prepared to the Perry County Commissioners for them to accept the roads at Forest Canton. So we'll put that on the agenda. We'll put it as right after number 8. So I guess we'll make that number 9. If that's okay with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
With that, I have nothing else. Anybody have anything to add or subtract to the agenda? If not, I need a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Or as changed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Approved, no. Carol sent out the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes from the last meeting? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. TIF balances. Courthouse TIF number 1, $339,464.10. Wapaka TIF, $986,654.81 Web Wheel, $328,236.34. Riverview West, $4,035.74.
When does
Doesn't look like a whole
the,
lot of changes.
when does the bond payment go out? Of the
Next month, I think.
Next month.
I think it's July, I believe. And that'll knock it down pretty good.
Yeah.
Forest Canton Heights, marketing continuous sales. The only thing that I really know that's been occurring out there, and Bill's got more on this, is one house was sold, I understand, actually to a real person. And on lot number 10, if you've noticed, those walls are up now, so that one actually has construction. Philip has his laid out, has not really dug anything at this point. So that's our activity for right now. What I'm hoping is we get one sold, maybe this thing will start to snowball on us a little bit. So I'm very encouraged. They're continually moving on with construction. I noticed on Ron's house, he's got the driveway in, and they were doing some dirt work around the house today. So he's getting that one spruced up and ready to go. I think he's pretty far along with that house, if I'm not mistaken. Inside. The outside's done. The inside, I think he's pretty well along. And it looked like the other ones, they were still working on a lot of inside work, plywood or drywall and stuff like that. So Bill has some more things we've talked about in the past on some signage and such. So Bill, you want to?
Yeah, I just passed out the list of all the people who have been instrumental in developing the property. I want the commission to take a look at that and see if there's anything that we need to add to
Oh,
it.
you are missing,
And
Bill, you're missing
what's that?
Luttering Brothers.
Okay, that's why I passed it out. It wasn't on there?
No, if it is, I'm sure missing it.
Okay.
Well, we can add that, Bill.
Oh, yeah, I haven't done it yet. I'm not taking anything until you look at it. So I gotta make sure it isn't.
Looks good.
That's why we do it. John and I have been working on getting all the paperwork ready. We just got the remaining paperwork from the attorneys. So I've got them all in packets, and what I'm going to do probably early next week is try to get everything taken care of all the people who have bought it, so forth, make sure we bring it in and get it recorded. And then we're going to keep a copy of it ourselves, of course, give the buyer a copy of it. So we've got, like, if there's any discrepancies, we can always say, okay, here's what we have, what do you have that we don't? So anyway, that's all I've got right now, John.
So we're just missing that one document? Did I understand you correctly, or we're waiting on one document
No,
from
we've
the
got-
attorney?
We've got them all done.
We've got all of them.
Yes.
There's like 4 of them. There's like,
Yeah.
okay, I can tell you, there's there's a sales closure form. Of course, we've got the covenants. Then we've got the purchase and sale agreement. These are the two we were waiting on for the attorney. They
Okay,
wanted to change that, and then we've also got a special warranty deed. So all these two is what we were waiting on, so now I'm getting all the packets finalized. And hopefully I can get around to all the people who have bought it, get them signed and get them recorded by next week.
and you said that was a special warranty deed, not a general warranty?
Special warranty.
Yeah, there's, I think it's gonna be a quick claim deed, isn't
It's
it?
a special warranty.
Special,
Yeah,
yeah,
special
that's,
warranty deed.
okay, good.
And each
Thank you.
one that he wrote is specific because we now have, we have the numbers of the lots
Individual.
and we've got the parcel numbers of the lots. So he individualized each one, so we don't have to write them in. So it's gonna make it a lot easier going forward.
Yes. Okay,
And
great.
if you see anything else on this, sign we're gonna do, please let me know before I go talk to Zach.
I'll check my notes.
Everybody check and make sure if there's anything here else I've missed.
All right, anything else, Bernie? Anybody want to talk about up there?
That's good.
All right, the next thing is, looks like, Randy, do you want to start with what the conversations we've had on helping us as a redevelopment commission work through some ideas and thoughts on creating some direction for the county?
I've got a story if you want to listen.
I do.
Sure. That's what we're here for. I could be real political and say, well, I'm really glad you came today, Randy.
Well, thank you, John. Same to you guys. I'm glad you showed up carrying out these tasks.
Yeah.
I'm not good at writing documents and just reading them. I just want to let you know my thoughts.
That's what we're after.
Okay, that's what
I'm really good with that, Randy.
Okay. One thing we all look at, we all are aware of what our county needs is growth. Growth is the answer to everybody's problem we have here. Question I'm going to pose to you, do people follow jobs or do jobs follow people? What is it? We'll go on with that. The first thing that anybody ever comes to Perry County, or any of you guys will say the same thing, it starts with a visit. You don't just come out here and go, I live in California, I'm going to pick Perry County, I'm never going to go look at it, I'm just going to move. No, they come for a visit, just like you do when you're on a holiday or something like that. You go to some place and you go, wow, this might be a good, nice place to land when I retire. So it starts with a visit. When someone comes to our community to visit, they come to a cabin, they come to a motel, they maybe come to a family member's house. Then what they do is they look around, they see the amenities, they see the culture of the community, and then they make a decision that I like this place, I might want to return, or I despise this place and I don't want to return. So that decision is made. That's a challenge. It's not in you guys' realm of needs. What you are involved in is like Forest Canyon, okay? You went into that. I don't know that you ever set an expectations of what you would deem an actual successful project. I think it's successful. You first went in and thought, we'll sell all these lots out as soon as we get them done, and wow, it'll be a big thing, it'll go fast. The other side of that could have been, I'll not sell a lot, and we'll be stuck with it. So you've got something in the middle. I think it's acceptable. People have lots. They're smaller lots. They're close to town. They have the amenities, the curbs, the gutters, those things. Case boats are developing something similar. So I think our needs in that area, they still have some at the highlands of that. And I think Luttrans have a few up in their subdivision too. So the in-town lots, I think we have enough, or will have enough in inventory to meet the coming needs in this here. The other thing that I am concerned about is what I call kind of the Hermie ancient development. And Hermie, if you know of Hermie, he picked up ground most of the time up along a river edge somewhere or a hill or something, put in roads, water. He didn't have all the amenities, but he had larger acreage. He generally had views from the lots he had. And that's another need. Not everyone wants a city lot. But some people want it out. They want to grow a garden. They want to have a view. They don't want to be in the city. I think we're lacking that. I think that's an area that I would suggest that you look, whether you can secure property, whether you can have water lines readily available, whether you have the internet service and the amenities required to say, here you go, here's an acre lot or a 2 acre lot or something like this that's available.
Can I
So
say
those
something?
people-
I don't mean to interrupt you, but as you're saying this, I'm thinking of the gentleman at French Ridge. Was you here when they presented their plan at the
No,
property across from the Leopold Clinic?
but I mean,
That's kind
that's,
of where he's at.
okay.
Yeah. What
But I mean,
you're
That's where
describing.
he's at. We just don't know what we can do financially.
So, but that's something I think that's a task you need to look like. He don't necessarily have the view, but not necessarily everybody looks to the river.
It's close as-
You know, this coast, close to the school, close to the highway, easy access.
jump
If
on
you
the
did
interstate.
work, if you worked at Louisville, for instance, it wouldn't be an awful task to take off from there, get to Louisville or someplace up there and still be able to return to a safe community, affordable community generally, and hopefully a community that they'd like to raise their kids in. So those are the things I think, and I think that if the redevelopment would put the word out, we would like to see if ground is available for sale or some kind of an arrangement you'd work out with an owner. Explore, put it out there, see what comes in. See, there may be ridges, there may be areas that are out there that someone said, well, if, you know, I would sell it, I would make it available. But just put it out there to see what you get. So I think that's one area. The next one I'd like you to look at is blighted property. And that can be in the county, it could be in the city, it could be anywhere. I've had numerous real estate people that tell me, well, when I go to sell or show a house, I pick a specific path to get there. Why? Because I don't want to drive past this part of town or this valley out in the county or this area because it doesn't look so good. So they bring them in another direction. I think those areas impact, again, back to the culture and the appearance of our county. If we have areas that we can secure affordably, clean them up, make them available, whether it's a town lot that has water, sewer, street, curbs and everything in it, somewhere where we can take that and turn that lot into a accessible lot that somebody can build, move, do whatever they want to with it. Not necessarily sell it to the next door neighbor, but it's better that the next door neighbor has a grass lot than a dilapidated home. So those things like that, I think is a plus and an improvement. So I think those are things that we can look at. We also need to consider how we're going to, not only do we have people here, we don't need to get into the game of 100% subsidizing. Here's a piece of cake for you while the neighbor guy continues to pay substantially higher taxes just to subsidize the new guy who comes in. We need to be fair. We need to have incentives. We need to do things that encourages people, but we don't need to give them the shirt off of our back. So when we go into that, focus on the population and expansion. And what I mean by that is we could get the state possibly to expand the prison out here by 1,000 and our population would go up by 1,000. It will not serve our community. Those people don't get out to spend any money. We need to look at opportunities where people will have disposable income, because if you don't have disposable income, you can't visit any of the amenities and help to support it. And that's what we need. So that's what we need to look into so that we attract people, families, individuals into our community in that fashion. I feel, and we never do this, even in government, we need to have expectations on whatever we do. If we pick a piece of ground, I'm going to use Forest Canton. And I'm going to say, okay, we're going to develop Forest Canton. We're going to spend X number of dollars on that. We're going to have X number of lots, 27, I think, if I remember correctly. Right. And we're going to have 27 lots. And our intention is, on the high end of it, sell it all out at the first night of bidding. On the low end, nobody gets it. But an acceptable means is that we're gonna sell 4 lots a year for the next 6 years, 7 years, whatever. But something, and that to us is an acceptable return on what we did.
So our expectation out there is 5 years.
Be real, okay.
5 years.
So you said that, and I think every project needs to be weighed the same way. So we come in and we determine, well, we're gonna buy this ridge, we'll get the roads, the water lines and that in there. And our intention is to sell off the 10 lots on the top of that ridge within 3 years once they're completed. So that way you come back and you can gauge it going forward. You can say, okay, it took us 10 years to sell them off. Why? And then we don't repeat the same mistake we made on that lot. Now, if we sold them off in a year, we ask the same question. Did we price them too low and they went too quick? Or do we need to seek out more opportunities to develop more ground similar because that was a desirable lot and people chose to move there? So I think it needs to be a measurement. It needs to be determined before, not after. And so I think everything needs to be looked at. Now, I also look at the other side of it. It's not in your really game. But we need to look as far as development is concerned, is like whether it's industry, municipality, or whatever, at lots, what might be available, what could be developed, and what the state has requests for. And that fits into our, we're not going to get something that needs 1,000 employees or 5,000 employees. But what fits into our niche and how can we develop or have available lots to serve those needs? But that's really not something you guys should do. And then I think that government needs to seek efficiencies with how we operate and how we spend the money. And that way it frees up more cash for things like you want to do and brings more people in. My thoughts? Any questions?
Thank you.
I'll sit down.
Thank you.
I think you're going down the right path, Randy.
And my question is, my answer is, do jobs follow people or people follow jobs? You know what it is?
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Both.
Yes is the.
We have had people move into our community because the job offerings were here. And we've had businesses that move out because the people were more plentiful in another location.
And we focus more on the latter.
Yep.
Because it has the biggest impact. Because when a person leaves, it's not as big of an impact from a community standpoint as when a business leaves.
That is correct. But at the same time, it's just like today, we have a multitude every place you go and there's offerings. There's jobs here,
Mm-hmm.
but there's jobs everywhere. And the problems, and we can get into this here, as a classic example, we have EMS positions that we raise our wages to attract people in. Warwick County raises their wages to take it back away from us. We need a workforce and quit picking the pockets of everybody else. We need to get these people in, get them trained so that we have a quality pool of workers. And that's just an example. So that we're not constantly trying to steal from the next business. And
So-
it'll be more
So
predictable.
here's my
That's
question.
everywhere.
That's everywhere.
That's
That's some of
everywhere.
our challenges, whether the schools, and I said this before, if some of these children graduating would like to get involved in healthcare, why aren't we educating them? Deaconess has a program we can put them into, and they can get trained and find themselves as.
Our CNA program at Tufts booked.
Right, and it's a similar program you can do. You can give these kids that are graduating an opportunity in a field that they may enjoy. Put them on an ambulance or somewhere and let them see how it functions and what's involved in it. Give them an opportunity.
Pay attention to pathways.
Let's start.
It's coming up.
Start opening these opportunities up. And I know you, Tony, you struggle for employees as do most of the business around here qualified.
So what you find with employees, it's not usually money that drives them to leave. It's their bosses.
And time off work.
Well, which is basically, it rolls into that. It's the structure in which they work under usually is what creates people to leave an employer.
And part of that,
That's just
John,
facts.
John, that comes back to what I said first about culture. You know, what is acceptable within the community? And if your boss is super hard to work with, then that's a culture that's developed at that manufacturer site, workplace, whatever it is. And, you know, the other side of the culture is if you're Santa Claus, it seems like everybody's there with their hand out. So
Mhm.
it's a weighted type thing, but, you know, some of the things we just have to, and you guys I know have been there, when you go into a community and it seems like no one is a stranger there, it gives you this feeling of you're accepted. And I know communities struggle with that, but it's one of those things that really makes a difference.
So the one thing you said, which we talked about this several years ago, and I always use the word positive expansion. And, you know, we talked about the subsidized housing versus non-subsidized housing. And I think that changes the perspective. And so when you look at subsidized housing today, and we're looking for, as an example, employees for Wapaka, they can't go into subsidized housing because their income is too high. So the question is really, what direction are we trying to attract from the community standpoint? So I'm really glad you brought that up, because we talked about that in this group before.
And just to expand that a little farther, they can't take a job if they're on subsidies because they'll lose them.
Mm-hmm.
So it creates a ceiling for them. I've had this discussion with some of our state legislature people that we need a sliding scale so that that individual who wants to gain additional skills that can climb the ladder, that we proportionately scale back their subsidies and allow them to continue and expand and become a productive citizen.
And they know that they just chosen not to do it
But I mean,
for
that's-
years. I think the state of Wisconsin tried that several years ago with the Medicaid scenarios. And I think it went well for a while, but I haven't really tracked to see what they're doing now. It could only stay on welfare for so long, basically, is what it boiled down to. So anyway, thank you, Randy. David, do you have anything you want to talk about?
Okay, I did reach out to the other council members a couple of times, didn't get a lot of feedback. There was one that usually came back with a lot of feedback. There was a couple that did present a few ideas, and we kind of narrowed it down to 3 priorities. I think Randy touched on some of these additional rental opportunities like townhouses, duplexes, condos, catering maybe towards the 55-plus senior citizens, and not just in Tell City, but throughout the county. I think Kelly had a lot of good ideas regarding that. And utilities, I know that's one of my big things, and I think Randy had mentioned that at one time too, extending water lines out in the county.
Sewer line to Branchville. Sewer line to Branchville.
Yes, that was another thing Stan Goffman, I know, was big on. And another thing that people don't realize that it's still an issue, I know there's been a lot of money put into it, is the high-speed internet, broadband. I mean, we still have a lot of areas that are underserved, particularly around Carrollton. I don't know if that's ever going to change. I don't know what the issue is there. Is it who they are? Is it Comcast or who are they?
Comcast was the first one here. Yeah.
I don't know. I've been told that they are not willing to work with them or something to upgrade and improve. I don't know on that. And another area, I think Randy also touched on this, was blight property redevelopment. I know Kelly had mentioned the big Ken Clay. That needs to be cleaned up, and there's a lot of several places, I guess, out in the county, if you start thinking about that, are blighted, it needs to be cleaned up, and somehow it could.
Has Carrollton created ideas for that site?
I think they have ideas, but I think, something that whenever I brought up in my email, because David had asked all of us to send an email, my issue was what you have to go through to get to it. And so is an investor going to put their money into something where they have to drive through, if you don't have a path, or if you have to take a long way or a different way, you want to be able to get to wherever it is. And be proud of it, and everything's cleaned up.
Reason I ask, Kelly, is because when Callenton requested from this commission to take that property for their own, if you will, at that time, I thought that they had some plans, but I haven't heard anything
There's been an
since.
administration change, so I don't,
Okay.
there were plans, and I knew what those were. I don't know what they're working on currently. There's been a lot of changeover in the elected officials, so, they may have different ideas now. Regardless, I think the whole idea is they're going to clean it up and try to develop it into something. So I think it's limited until certain areas around it are also taken care of and cleaned up the blight. So, and David also mentioned on the high-speed internet, I don't know what the issue is. I have talked, Hamilton has a big problem with the cell service and the internet. And it's not just Hamilton. I just know that because I have a lot of constituents in that area. And every time I drive through there, I lose service. And so, that's a public safety issue. That's an issue for businesses to come in. They can't grow their assessed value. They have one of the highest tax rates in the state of Indiana. They can't grow their assessed value if they can't have businesses come in, but if you can't have a credit card machine, most businesses don't want to come in. So it's a challenge. And so, that's specific to council, but there's other areas that, Troy has some issues with cell service and some internet issues. And, there's areas out in the county that also have that. So I think if we could just pick some of these things and really focus on them and do one at a time or a couple at a time, it would be fun.
And there's been so much money poured into this internet. I don't understand why we can't get that for those areas.
I
Why we,
know the main drive-through there in Hamilton has PSCI, but I don't think it branches off, or it doesn't branch off as, enough is what the residents tell me. Why that is, I don't know. Maybe that's a conversation with PSCI. And, I think part of it is when I called the FCC, they said, well, it shows on the map that Comcast is adequately covering the area of Hamilton, but they're actually not. When you go to the residents, they can't stream television. I mean, we're in 2024. A lot of people don't want to have to pay a satellite bill or anything. They can't even get TV.
My guess is it's an infrastructure problem.
It absolutely is. So,
And see, the thing is, there's no funding then available. If
Because it
we
shows-
have one
Yeah.
provider
so we need help
that
to
is
get past
providing
that.
it, but the problem of it is they're not actually providing it.
They haven't updated their systems.
Yes.
That's what happened.
And they need to push from, whether it's local government or we get state reps involved or whoever, we need to stand up and say, it's actually not. Get down here and look for yourself. It's not, it might show it on a computer, but it's not the true reality.
I know some residents say that they have it, high-speed internet, but then across the street, they don't have it.
Yeah.
I don't know how that is or why that is, but,
A lot of
I
the
just
old
think those are-
technology is like a garden hose.
oh,
It works when only one of you are getting water out of the end of it, but when the three of you start pulling on it, it slows down.
that'd be a problem.
And I think of internet and cell service as no different than electricity and water. I mean, it's a basic necessity. I mean,
Yes,
anymore, you
yes,
have to have
yes.
that. I mean, those are
Yes.
things that you really have to have, and if you don't, you're very deprived. I mean. so
Especially if you're
there's
somebody,
children-
somebody who wants to work from your home.
Yeah, I mean, I work remotely, and if I lived in certain parts of the county, I wouldn't be able to do that. I work for a company in Rhode Island. There's a lot of opportunities, you just,
I have a list that was given to me by one of the council members. Davis expanded on some of it. And you've already mentioned Ken Clay and Blight. Extending the sewer line to Branchville. I think that's very important. I mean, that goes back from Branchville to Interstate, that goes back 25 years.
Since they put it in.
Since they took it to Branchville, it's needed to go forward to make that property more developable. EV charging stations, I don't know if we're on that infrastructure, if that's something we can handle. Bringing back the boat docks in Tell City and Troy. Shooting range, similar to the Camp Atterbury complex, this is a very highly sports outdoor sports and recreation area. Revitalize the entrances into our community from Perry County, Troy, County, and the interstate. This one caught my eye, create an RV park on county-owned ground for people who come and work and visit. I know we have them on the federal property, but it's something we may be interested in doing. Been working on a plan to make the interstate more appealing for development. Just a couple of them.
That would start with the sewer.
Start with the sewer. So anyway, just adding to what David and Randy said.
Tony's point about the river, and I think it's 49 miles of river we have that actually affects Perry County. And you think about the other communities that have developed a river, and we really are behind. A lot of the blame comes back that, the Corps of Engineers, is the one that stops all this stuff. Well, they make it hard, but they don't stop it. And we give up too easy. And a lot of communities that have developed their riverfronts, and they're nice, and they're well. I just can think of up there at
Madison.
well, yeah.
Oh my
but-
gosh,
but
if we could concrete our Sunset Park
even
like
up-
Madison.
Even up in Crawford County, they have the dock down there. It floods out every every winter, but during the summer they clean it up. It's nice. So I mean,
I think we utilized the river more 30 years ago than what we do now.
absolutely, and it's a real asset because water attracts people, and I don't know why, but you think of people that go to Florida and sit on the beach and watch the waves come in. It's kind of calming. That's why you'll see a lot of the ridges in Perry County built with houses, because sitting on the back porch, it's just pleasant. And we're missing out on attracting those people and their family.
Remember the party barge?
Oh, yeah.
I never went there. I was at church, David.
This is being recorded, so.
Okay, so that one didn't work. I'm sorry.
I remember that.
I do too.
It was so, that was growing up as a kid, it was just incredible.
Right. And
There
we
were
had
50, 60 boats docked at the Fisher's Party Barge. I mean, everybody, it's just, what an asset we lost.
Yep.
And if we could, I mean, that's
and
a
today,
big
Tony,
deal.
you take a look even as close as Patoka Lake, and I look at that and all the boats just come everywhere.
The money pouring in there.
Yeah. I mean, they come here and they stimulate the economy.
Yeah.
And we have that asset, and we're not taking it.
And we can't hardly ramp a boat sometimes.
I think Derby's doing a good job.
They are.
They're just taking it in their own hands. and
Yeah.
Which is
working
good.
Through all those struggles. and
Which is
challenges.
good, that's what you
I
want.
encourage more of that.
Yeah.
Help
And-
them how-
And with what
This
Kelly's
manhole
saying,
pult's still
I
open.
kind of like the way a
County's
lot of
gonna
these
close it down.
USDA,
They can't keep it.
they
Clean,
provide
clean.
a portion of the funds to the
That
organization,
was
not
really utilized at one
100%.
time.
Oh, yeah.
That way, if you have an active community that will actually step up,
Somebody's working.
and then I think the results are better because they take pride in it, because they've actually played a part in it.
Any questions for Randy or David?
So we got some ideas.
We got some
Just
ideas.
money.
We got some ideas.
Money.
Not a lot of money.
That's the next thing you have to figure out. You gotta figure out the plan first.
Set a goal,
Figure out the
see how,
money.
how we're gonna get it.
Yeah, basically gonna be a priority, and it could be several priorities at one time in reality. Because I've got, just kind of thinking through this, I've got some thoughts on some of these things, which I don't think would be real, I'm gonna say, difficult to do. So,
Thank you both for showing up and giving it
thank you.
Thank you very much.
ideas.
We're getting tired of looking at each other.
We need guidance.
Aaron, you gonna expand on that now?
I would love to do that next one there.
Sure. But we can't see in our little picture here. We can see Randy's arm. No, the other one.
All right,
We gotta have at least some fun, Randy.
Thank you for the opportunity to provide a PCDC update. I am sharing with you what was shared with the commissioners at the update I provided there earlier this month. And I won't go through all of it. It's 60 pages long, so I'm not going to read it all to you, I promise. But I did want to highlight a few things, and then there have been some updates since this that I wanted to share. It's broken out according to our focus areas, with the first being attraction. And I did provide a summary, and there's an attachment several pages back that relates to that. But in January 2024 through the end of May 2024, we received 32 requests for information from the Indiana Economic Development Corporation for companies that were looking for a new site expansion. And sometimes they are looking statewide, and sometimes they are specifically looking at certain counties. Of those, we were able to submit sites in response to 4 of those projects.
How many was it?
32.
32.
And I think that is mostly determined by the size of site that they are looking for. You will see below, I kind of shared the summary that the state had shared from the previous year and the requests that are coming in. There was a significant increase in searches for sites with over 101 acres. The average minimum requirement for ceiling heights was 30 feet, which, to kind of give you an example, the height of the former Parker Hanson facility is 18 to 20. So, it's older, and it's just not necessarily fit for all of the new types of manufacturing. 38% of the requests were for sites, 31% were for buildings, and another 31% were for a site or building. 57% of the requests were for a specific geography or county versus being statewide. 34% were for sites served by rail. And the electric equipment components made up 22% of requests. And to expand on that a little bit more, I did not yet include it in here, but last week we hosted a meeting with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, and they are working with a site selection consultant, and they have worked with states throughout the country, and essentially they look at all of the GIS mapping data that is available for each county in Indiana, and they use that to identify potential sites that would be right for development that we could look at. Okay, what kind of infrastructure does it need? They were really looking at larger sites. They wanted 30 acres or more, but preferably 100 acres or more, which is a little bit large for here. And I think it was very evident that we aren't a typical county when it comes to development. When they shared the sites that they identified 2 sites in the entire county that could be potential for development. And they said that for most counties, they have 20 or more. And they, we had to remind them, we have the Hoosier National Forest, we're very hilly, and we're just not in the same circumstance as a lot of counties that have an abundance of flat available acreage that is near major interstates and has access to utilities, just like we talked about before with our interstate and just the cost to get the sewer extended there. But that was a great opportunity for us to get feedback. We did look at both of those sites. One of them was just not really feasible because it was so far away from any infrastructure. The other is a potential, and we are looking into that a little bit more. And then I also requested, while we had that opportunity, that they look at 5 additional sites that we had identified. And one of those additional sites was the 99 acres that is owned by the RDC that's behind ATTC. And I think we had, John was in attendance, and I invited Commissioner Cole, but he was not able to attend. And I think we got some really good feedback on that property. I think that he felt that it was definitely developable, but that it would, of course, need some extended entrance road and things like that. And then there were some additional sites. We talked about all of the property beside Wapaka and some other sites that were dispersed throughout the county. And I am waiting on their official report that they will provide us now. And actually last week had a meeting. Hoosier Energy has some programs where they will kind of help us take some of that to the next step in terms of phase one environmental or what else needs to be looked at to kind of get that property ready. So as soon as we get that information back, we can kind of work with you guys to go next steps there. In terms of attraction, there is a project there, Project Olive. We did work with an industrial company that was based out of Indianapolis. They had a desire to open a second location that would be closer to a growing customer base, and they have purchased that property and they've been preparing it. And I believe it would have been considered a blighted property in need of fixing up, and they are doing that and they're excited to do it. But they have not yet given us the okay to publicly share any information, so I will refrain from naming them or the location. The Project Yultic, we worked pretty closely with a potential data center. We looked at many locations, any location that could possibly work, and John was involved in several of those discussions. And at the end of the day, we just could not get power low enough, cheap enough. But we also talked about the benefits and disadvantages of data centers. They can be great, but they can also, they are enormous users of power, and they can come in and take up a site and any excess energy on the grid and create not very many jobs. So it's just a kind of a, what do we want as a community?
Yeah, to phrase that, they're difficult. They're not what I thought they would be from an economic development standpoint. They're a little bit like a leech. They'll just pull and pull and pull.
Anytime we talked about how much power we could get on, they'd be like, we'll take that too. What do you got after that?
And they're very transportable, apparently.
Well, yes, and that is the other potential concern that, if infrastructure upgrades are necessary for those projects, a lot of them are just big shipping containers that can be brought in. And if they decide they don't want to be in your community anymore, they can pick up and leave. And then you have invested all of that money into the infrastructure. So they're not necessarily bad projects. I just think that there's something that if there's a potential, we would need to work very closely to make sure that that is something that we want and we would want to incentivize. Moving on from attraction to business retention and expansion, which is really a large focus area because it is so critical that we keep our current employers here. There is a kind of a running list, and again, I will not go over all of them. We talked about Wapaka's project at the last meeting. Best Home Furnishings is currently in the process of adding an additional 20,000 square feet, and they have, we've talked to them about some potential training and upskilling opportunities. Bliss Artisan is another business that we've been working very closely with. And then there is some information about different small business support services. We have a partnership with the Indiana Small Business Development Center. And now on Mondays, we have a business advisor that is in our conference room, and he is available to meet with clients. It's confidential, no cost, and he can connect them with a lot of great resources or market research. Workforce development. What Randy was talking about in terms of making sure that we only have so many graduates every year, and even if we could get every graduate to stay in Perry County, it probably wouldn't be enough to fill the jobs that we would want to fill. But it is really, really important that we work with the current students that we have in our community and let them know that there are job opportunities available here and that we have the training available so that they can take those positions. And we work very, very closely with the schools and with Ivy Tech. I think most of you know that we have added Whitney Zellers, and her title is Workforce Development Specialist. And she works very, very closely with the schools. And I know Tony, you mentioned the pathways. I know there's a lot changing with the diploma and the pathways, and she is very aware of all of that and continually working with the schools to make sure they have the resources necessary to take advantage of every opportunity. We also just hosted the Perry County Jobapalooza, and there was a great turnout for that. It was June 13th, I believe, and there were 51 total job seekers, 2 non-English speaking, 11 employers were represented, and then in addition to employers, there were community resources that were there that kind of could help job seekers address barriers to employment if they had those, like transportation, childcare, housing, things like that. And that was very successful. We were thrilled with 51 because I think a lot of job fairs recently have seen very little attendance. Skilled Trades Fair is another event that she had worked on where that really just gives local students the opportunity to kind of see some of the hands-on career opportunities that we have in our community and lets them actually participate in them and develop relationships with our employers while they're still in high school. Ivy Tech instructor travel. We did work through the Perry County Business and Industrial Development Corporation to fund about $2,700 worth of instructor travel so that the class at Ivy Tech, it was like health and human services or intro to human services. It's kind of the first classes for like a mental health pathway, so that class was not canceled and that we could get an instructor here. There were 10 students that took that course, and each student took all 4 of the classes that were part of it, 3 credit hours each, for a total of 120 credit hours, or over $20,000 in savings for local families. Make My Move. I think that you all are aware of Make My Move and what we're doing with that. We just wrapped up our first contract with Make My Move, which included 8 movers. And I think it was very, very successful. We had a kind of a lull and had to extend it in order to finish it out. But once we did that extension, Shiraz has not been able to keep up with the number of, like every day, 3 or 4 new people are interested in coming here. The breakdown of those residents are 19 new residents in all, 14 adults, 5 children, and all 5 of those children are or will be in our local school system. Average household income of those families is over $98,000, with an overall economic output of over $344,000, taxes generated over $45,000, local jobs created 2.15, and that all comes from an economic impact calculator that Make My Move has worked to develop. Like I said, we've already signed a second contract, and we are working with, we already have 1 mover up that second contract. There's 5 in it, and it's been going really well. We would love to just continue to be able to do this. We met with a new family yesterday and then a new family today, and I think it's so refreshing for us to be able to talk with these families as they come in, because they see our community with totally different eyes than we see our community. And I know that we have blight, and I know that we have things that need fixed up, but one of the comments they made was, this is such a clean community. Like, we would not have moved here if, gone through and thought that it wasn't, but they couldn't believe just how well kept everything was. They couldn't believe how safe it was, how friendly people were. So it's just awesome to talk to people that come here, and that to get it from their perspective is really, really awesome. And I think that they will, again, just be great additions to our community. They want to get involved. I did also provide, I think they got passed down, I just took a screenshot of the dashboard on the Make My Move portal that we have. And it's a combination of our estimated to date as well as projected future economic impact. And I believe that this is based on anyone who has expressed, like, we have a mover page, and if people go there and actually apply, then they get an official offer. So it's anyone who's expressed interest. This is all like, if we were to capture all of them, which, we won't be able to get them all, but it shows you the potential. The annual economic impact of over 447,000, 5-year economic impact of almost 2 million, and 76,000 in annual tax contributions. So I think it's a great program. We've had a lot of success with it. We are working with Make My Move. I think we'll be attending a conference later this summer to talk to other communities about how successful it's been for us and kind of the ways that we have worked to tackle barriers like housing and things like that. Does anybody have any questions so far? Keep going. Hurry up, slow down.
I'll slow down.
Okay. Housing, again, we know housing is a really important issue. We, of course, worked with the RDC on Forest Canton Heights, and it's really exciting to see those homes be complete, and I love hearing that one has been sold. That's awesome. Hoosier Heights is another ready funded project, and they should be starting very, very soon. Their bids came in for site work and for sanitary sewer and water lines, and those were accepted. So work should begin very soon there. French Ridge Estates is another project that we are aware of and that we have had some conversations with. And then we are currently working on or aware of at least 2, if not more, other multifamily projects. And I think that that's really, we kind of talked about this, but I really believe that that should be where the major focus is right now, because we have, we've got Forest Canton, the Highlands has a little bit of space left there. Hoosier Heights is just getting ready to start. I know Ron Smith is continuing to do some infill. I know that the schools are working on housing. So multifamily is where we are really seeing the void, especially when these Make My Move families are coming in. They're not necessarily ready to buy a house yet, but they do, want a nice quality place to rent. Childcare, of course, remains a need here. I have been very active more on the policy statewide level in the last year, and we've seen some really positive changes. Just today, they made an announcement that all childcare staff used to have their fingerprints completed every year on an annual basis, whether or not anything had changed. And that's just it costs money and time, and it's silly. And that has been updated to now every 3 years. So just little by little, kind of addressing some of the barriers there. And we will continue to do that and also look at ways to potentially expand childcare options. On here, I did include some of the analytics from our website, and those are interesting. If you just want to flip through, you can see like the search terms that people have put in that have brought them to our website and the different things that they are searching for in relation to Perry County. A lot of it is tourism related, of course, but there's also, they're looking for jobs, housing, things like that. And Ready. Ready one, like I said, we talked about Forest Canton and Hoosier Heights. The Ivy Tech Workforce Training and Enhancement Project includes adding HVAC to the labs there so that they can be used throughout the day, where right now, if it's super hot or super cold, they have a difficult time using them. And then it also includes additional advanced automation, robotics, training equipment that will be added there. And then the 4th project is the Tell City Sports Complex, and I believe the designs are being finalized there. For Ready 2, there is some additional information here. In all, we had a project consideration portal that was open so we could kind of understand the types of potential projects that existed in the community, and we have 12 of those submitted for a total funding request of more than 11 million. The region was awarded 15 million, but that will really end up being about 14 million after all of our administrative fees. And clearly we won't be able to grant out 11 million based on that number, but We are working as a region right now to finalize an application and a scoring rubric that will then be available, and we will take official submissions for projects at that time. The state has really emphasized that they would like to see these projects be that, quality of life, population growth type of project. And then there is an additional $250 million that is available from Lilly Endowment that is kind of under the state's control to address blight and redevelopment and arts and culture. And those timelines are moving crazy fast. And essentially, if a project can really be submitted for regular ready funding, arts and culture, or blight and redevelopment, and the state, I believe, will pick where they think it best fits under those buckets. And they have also said that funding is extremely competitive and that there is no guarantee that every region will receive funding from that bucket. Region 15 currently has a Brownfields Coalition Assessment Grant, which really just means that they have some funding available to look at properties that either are or could potentially be a brownfield or that have some type of stigma around them that would address redevelopment concerns. And those can be evaluated with this grant funding at no cost to the property owner. It's a really great opportunity to kind of at least deal with the initial phase of development. And we are utilizing that grant right now on a potential project. And almost the last thing, Radius is a regional economic development organization that is geographically very near to us, but we are technically not a part of it based on its formation, and it had to do with some casino funds, and that's what it was funded with. But we have joined a partnership with them to join their Discover Southern Indiana tourism brand, which is a really high quality tourism campaign. They do a lot of paid marketing behind it, and Perry County and Owen County just joined it. So I think it's a great opportunity for both Radius and for us to have that additional exposure. And the last thing, there's another handout that I think you guys received, and it is some information about an upcoming focus group. Lilly Endowment had, I think it is Gift 8 that came out. And in addition to having some planning dollars for each individual county, they had planning dollars for regions as well. And the Indiana First region pursued those dollars and is working in collaboration with the Community Foundation Alliance, I believe. And they, essentially, we wanted to look a lot about what Randy talked about. The amenities and the services that are in communities really depend on who's there and who's willing to create them, and people leave if they don't necessarily have all of the essential amenities and services that they want and need. So this study is really to kind of drill down on a regional but also a county level and understand, what is it? Is it, do we need more veterinary services? Is it more mental health services? Is it more arts and culture? Is it childcare? Is it healthcare? What do people that currently live here feel are those essential things that are missing? And I think we'll get some really good data, and then I will be happy to share that with you guys, and maybe can use that as we determine next steps.
I'd like to see that.
Yes.
Any questions for Aaron? Thank you.
Very good
Can I-
information, thank you.
We have a question.
You mentioned the $250 million for the Lilly Endowment, and it was fast and those type of things, and you did mention blight, and I know that I think the council commissioners, I think you even agree that there's some issues with that. Is that something that this board could look at putting something together to see if we can even get it like quickly, for whatever? if
Yeah,
an area
I think
or-
that if there is,
There's $250 million, we might as well try it.
it's going to be really interesting to see how that ends up being allocated throughout the regions. But I definitely think it's worth giving it a shot. The application right now, I believe the goal is to have it at least by the middle of next week complete, and I will be more than happy to share it and work with you guys on putting together something for blight and redevelopment. With that being said, when it is initially opened, the state is allowing each region to submit 4 projects. So we will have to work with the other counties in the region to determine which 4 make it to, and that's 4 in blight and redevelopment and 4 in arts and culture. So we'll have to narrow down all of the potential options and submit 4 in the beginning
From the whole region.
from the whole region. After that, it's my understanding that it's on a rolling basis, so we could just resubmit at any time. But they'll have a live ticker, essentially, where it's gonna show, where it's going down. So if they allocate out 30 million, it's gonna continue to show. And the impression that I have gotten is that there are some regions that have projects that are ready to go, already identified, and are ready to commit funding to those regions, so.
I mean,
So we have to have identified sites within a week.
Not within a week, I'll get you the application. The
Okay, my question
IEDC
is,
has said by
can we
the end
apply
of
for-
July.
When we apply for funding to explore opportunities in like renovation.
That's
The so what they have said that if the timeline is so crazy that we have said like, okay, hold on, in round 1, we'd submit something to you and then it would take 6 weeks for it to work its way through all the compliance before you could even tell us if you were gonna designate funding. It's not federal funds this time. So it's our understanding that we will submit an initial, here's kind of the idea, here are the players, here's the overall budget. Don't necessarily have to have everything detail worked out. The state will then be willing to do a pre-commitment of funding, where then that'll be set aside, so it can't continually be put out to other communities. Then you have to do, and it's in here, and I think you guys have a copy of this, but there's a 4-page, and that's when those projects have to have, detailed project cash flow pro forma that includes at a minimum estimated annual gross income, estimated annual operations and maintenance expenses and other related costs, estimated annual net operating income, estimated annual debt service, site development plan including interior and exterior photographs if there's an existing building, detailed architectural and engineering plans, drawings and renderings of the proposed development. Just essentially you're ready to do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
So they're willing to kind of hold a little bit of money, and then you've got to show, okay, we have everything to actually complete the project.
Is this a reoccurring grant?
There is 185 million available for blight reduction and redevelopment. But
But I mean, is this something a lot of these grants,
right,
they come back next year, they come back, is this a new one?
they don't, money was donated by Lilly Endowment and piggybacked on the back of Ready 2. So I don't know. I wouldn't put my hopes on it just because it would depend on Lilly saying, hey, that went so well, here's more. But I would consider it one time.
That's my question, because I don't think we're necessarily ready, but if we know it's coming next year, try to select some sites, determine costs, put a plan together so it gets received well. And as long as we know there's potential for funding, then we put the effort out to find what
We'll be able to watch essentially live as that money is allocated. So it may go slow, the application process may be so detailed that it may take a little bit longer for all of those funds to be dispersed out. But I don't know. There are redevelopment tax credits through the IEDC that they also manage. And I think that those are very complex, but we can also look into the potential of
So is there a
utilizing
dollar
those.
amount for those? I mean, those Those would work.
The redevelopment tax credits, I
Absolutely.
think they get so much each year and then,
Is it allocated by county?
You know, this,
go ahead.
we were talking about the Can Clay property, you know, we were out on this board when Ralph came here and the county basically said, take it. And then they just received, I think, $1 million something settlement to clean up the property. And when I was on this and told Ralph, find a company, give them the property.
Right.
So they will build a $40 million
Get it back
factory
on the
there.
tax rolls.
You know, is that property, does it need cleaned up before? It's a new administration in county. They might have a different perspective on it. Have they approached you?
No, I have met with Smokey. We did reach
Yeah.
out and explain all of our services, and we do continue to work with.
But you don't know what their thoughts are for the grant. That's where we could get involved.
I mean, he did say that there had been some people who had said, oh, we should move city offices there. And he said, no, I don't want to do that. We want to get it on the tax rolls. We don't want to inhabit it. So I think that
Is it considered a Superfund site that you know? Is it clean?
I don't think so.
It's not a Superfund
it's
site.
not done.
There's funding there to clean it.
But is it a Superfund site? Is it that contaminated?
No.
No? Or we don't know.
It didn't pop up.
I don't think it's a super fund.
It did not pop up shown as that, as a polluted site.
Which,
So
I mean,
Well,
Randy, they're
that's
not
a
talking
big
about
piece of
using
non-flooding flat
15
flat
grant for that
property.
one, right?
that
They
needs,
have, Region 15 has the grant already cleaned it up.
Right, that's what I thought. Like
It's
the
not- it's not the
brownfield one that
brownfield,
Region
it's
15
not.
has is like way too small. It's a confirmed brownfield essentially, so now they need the actual.
Can Clay is a confirmed brownfield site.
Yes.
We just don't know what,
But it's not
They have
super
received
fun.
funding to
it's
clean
not
it
that
up.
bad yet. Bad that they know of.
They'll get it cleaned up. It is
That's
not-
just
it's not
such a
super
huge
fun.
piece of flat ground developable for industry.
But what Region 15 has, for instance, if you have a small filling station
Right.
and you're curious as to whether it's got contaminants on it, you can apply, they will come in and test it, potentially take it to phase 2, and then they'll also come in with remediation, potentially, this is all step by step, where they will come up with a plan not only to remediate it, but also a plan to redevelop it, so you can get it back into an active.
You know, that's where we would come in. I mean, again, that's a huge piece of
Step by step,
property.
And they've got funding for that, and they have a contract.
I want to help them. I want to increase their assessed valuation up there.
But you just have
They
to-
need it.
You need to
We all need it, but
identify
they really need it.
potential sites,
Oh, there's
and
a
then,
big one.
I mean,
I think for the funds that are currently available from Lilly for Blight and redevelopment, I don't think that King Clay's could even make it solely because there's not that project waiting. There's not that developer or the match that's ready on the other side. And they're not going to
A project,
allocate money
But
to
potentially
it.
some of the places going to there could. Because there's a lot of those buildings
Right,
that.
right, a smaller, a more feasible,
Yeah.
you know, if you could find,
I think the first
The
thing
investor.
Canada needs to do though is decide what their vision is. Is it residential? Is it industrial? How do they want their community to?
Yeah, what to do with that piece of property?
Yeah, I mean, do we wanna look at, and this is the community makes this decision as to what their vision is as far as utilizing that. And, hopefully they'll do planning prior to just plucking something in the middle of it because it's available and they have a building. And then they haven't considered redeveloping the entire property. So hopefully they are taking the time to, within the community, that's their decisions, how they
Kelly.
want this to look.
Is that
Yeah.
something that your board could bring their administration in and say, what is your ideas? What do
We,
you- what
we
would
can,
help
we
you?
can do that. I mean, we're a county redevelopment
Yeah,
commission.
I mean, I
So the
think
answer to your
that
question is
they're
yes.
They're limited resources, so if they can have some other resources and the
Well,
county can say, okay, we're on here to help you.
It's no different than
You're
the
not by
gen,
yourself.
the gentleman that came in with the subdivision. You know, he contacted us. We helped him walk through the process first. Then he came to our meeting and explained what he was wanting, and we'll continually work with him. The challenge we had with him, we just don't have the funding to give him. I mean, because we're not a funding source per se.
But I think, there's
So
already.
the answer to your question is yes.
So
And I think this board would be happy to do that.
can we reach out to them or?
We can.
I mean, I think that's a good start to something, if you're looking for a project,
We are looking for a
you
project,
know, because.
a worthy project.
And you can have multiple, like she said, and I think that's a good idea too.
But I think as you vision the redevelopment commission, is I think part of our job is to find resources out there that we can find. It's not necessarily our resources, but also help these folks, help plan to the best of our ability.
And John, what you touched on, I think it's very important, because we're looking at the county level, how we can start taking some of our gravel roads, and turning them into paved roads over a period of time.
But you have a
Set up
plan.
Program, come up with the funding, look at the dollars, look at how we might achieve this. The same with the guy at French Ridge. If you look at it and say, there's the challenge. Okay, how can we address that challenge? What is feasible, what isn't? Look at development, the new tax dollars that will be coming in, how we can utilize those tax dollars to subsidize the initial part of it, but try to establish something so that when the next French Ridge developer steps in the door, we have a plan in place that we can say, this is what we can offer. And it's the same where we're looking at it at the county, is what we can do to change a gravel road into a paved road. And so we're in the process of doing that now, but I think it's the same thing. It's a planning, and it's gonna take some work as to how you might achieve this, reduce it to a program in writing, and then we have that available when that person walks in the door, rather than, well, let's think about it, because it takes time.
Well, one of the
And money. That
things,
bridge needs to go, but how are we gonna, what was that?
Exactly.
3 million?
Sit down, You take a look at it, Tony, and you
For
say,
infrastructure?
you're gonna have.
Road, sewer, gas?
Let's say we're gonna have.
I feel like it was
3 million.
Was it?
100,000.
How much?
It was just a few hundred.
It was low, well, I think
No.
it was like 700,000
Yeah.
maybe, but I feared that maybe a little more.
well, the one thing that the thing that we took on when we started Forest Canton, one of the ideas of that was, as an organization here, we were going to work through the process and figure out how to streamline the process and make it more efficient. And I think we've done that, because we now know all the loops and all the issues that we had in order, from a county level, from a city level, from the buildings inspectors to the rules and regulations, the rezoning, all that stuff that we had to walk through. I think we've made it a lot more efficient. So when the gentleman from French Ridge came in, it was real simple for us to say, okay, here's what you have to do. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get those done, you can go to step 6, but you got to do these first. And that was always the challenge, because it took us a while. If you think about that, it took us almost a year to work through the process before we even got going.
And now the next challenge is, take a look at the homes that's being built out there. Find out what their assessed valuations are and what kind of tax yield they will each.
Yeah, we know there's a good return.
Okay, you don't know the numbers though. I'm
No.
saying,
We've
as an
estimated.
example,
We've estimated.
if you have 5 homes that currently are being built, what are they going to offload in tax revenue?
Perpetual.
Yeah, and then we can say, you got 27 lots, so that's our average, and we're gonna, and so it gives you a dollar amount as to what, by initiating this development, here's the dollars, and then we as a county can look at additional revenue that will be coming in and say, we'll earmark X number of dollars for this individual, but we're going to have target achievements. Not that we come in and say, here's the money and just tell us a story. Here's the money, we'll loan it, and when your story is fulfilled, we'll forgive your loan. So that we don't find ourselves giving money and getting no return. Because we get the return back, it offsets it, and it doesn't impact.
Yeah, we-
us.
That's
So
one thing
you're
we-
saying that if we can come up with a way to help fund French Ridge, that we basically tie the deed similar to Forest Canton, we're gonna help you fund this. But we need a return on investment. If we don't get it, we're taking the property.
Well,
That's basically that's what you're saying.
However you work that out, and as.
I know, but we need a guarantee.
As an example, I was talking to another economic development firm up north, and what they had was a similar amusement park like Holiday World that had shut down. Another company said, we'll come in and take it over. We'll spend millions of dollars to get it up to speed. We're going to employ X number of people in this organization, and here's the return your community will have. Their community then made the decision to provide so much capital, but it was a loan, not a grant, not a gift. And what they did, they said, if you meet these targets of everything you said you're going to do in 5 years, the loan's forgivable. So in essence, the county's saying, we're willing, or the city, I don't remember which one it was, we're willing to invest in your vision. And if you carry out the tasks you've promised, we're going to put this much money in. And they did the numbers on it because by the time they invested, their assessment went up. They had all these additional employees that were paying into the local income tax. So it made sense to them financially. Basically, it was using their new additional revenue to help them subsidize the renovation of that amusement park. And it worked. And I'm thinking it's a method for us not to say, we're going to jump off the bridge and give you the money. And if you never produce it, we're out of money.
Yeah, we don't want to give our shirt off our back and never get it back.
And then you just presented a story to us rather than something that's actionable and proof. So that's how they approach it, and I think
I like that
that's what we
approach.
need to follow through.
There are some funds through the USDA, the Red Leg program, that Southern Indiana Power has access to those funds, and they can borrow them. There's so much that you can get a grant, and then once you go above that, I think it's 200 million, that could be way high. But it's 0% interest, and it is, your loan is to Southern Indiana Power, believe, and then they make the payment to the USDA.
And see, we can guarantee repayment of that through tax dollars too. So there's methods of doing it.
I mean, I will say what was nice here today is we're starting to work down a path, which I think is good.
But I mean, you just need to start somewhere and work your way through, just like you did Forescan. And then try to determine a fair investment.
Which is what we also did there too. Yes, I agree. Thank you all. Thank you. I did skip item number 5, which is more important to me than anybody else probably. But through the process of mowing and putting stakes out for each property, my wife has spent $114.90. So I would like to get reimbursement, or she would anyway, or the 3 mowings plus stakes.
Deny.
Motion.
You know,
It would be nice. No, she just provided the gas. I mowed it all for that, yes. The last 3 mowings I've done. Actually, I did have some help one day, volunteer help. Had some friends that came out after the rain and we cracked it out pretty hard. I know he's had some time, and I know Bill's had some time in, so I'm sure I'll share some of this with them, so.
So you're asking
For
for,
$114.90.
Do we have
I'll move that we,
any other invoices to talk about?
That's all, the
That's it?
only
Okay.
invoice I have.
All right. Got Bill making a motion.
I make the motion.
I'll
We
second.
refund it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you all. I wasn't gonna do it, but I figured enough is enough, right?
Yeah.
But to answer your question, yes. Yes. And every time it was not real short either, by the way.
I saw you.
Yeah.
So your thumb's all right now.
We're talking,
Huh?
we're talking about one more.
Yes, I was. Yes, I was. Bill almost earned his up out there. Follow up on the mowing from our last meeting. I did get all the information in and did, I guess, contract Ryan Dooley to mow twice a month for $350 a mowing. He's already mowed it once. He'll be mowing sometime later, probably this week for the second one of the month. And I talked to him about that, if for some reason the weather really slows it down, he's not gonna mow it. So we kind of talked through that. But he did do more than what we did the last time because he did the banks coming into the county road coming into the subdivision. When he got done, it did look really nice. He cleaned up a lot of the stuff that I did not. I'll be the first to admit that. So I just wanted to put that in our minutes that's been taken care of, and so far moving forward very, very well. The range started, and he reconfigured, started at 1,000 of mowing, and he was the lowest at 350. And it was pretty much mixed all the way. And we had 4 different individuals that contacted me to mow. I had a couple that contacted me and decided it was more than they wanted to handle. And as we sell the lots, the plan is not to have to mow them. That's the plan. But we're not going to let it get grown up either. So we'll just have to play that one by ear. Fort Wendell's lot right now, we've been mowing the front of it because he has it staked, and we don't want to mow where he's got his stakes, because we didn't want to mess up his stakes in there. So we've been keeping ahead of that now, thank goodness. The last thing we added to the agenda, and we talked about this, I think the last meeting's on, since we have completed the roads, almost completed, I should say, the roads, we're asking, we've got a letter for you all, Randy, for you to look at the roads and accept them as county roads.
Do you have the surface?
We do not have the surface, but you can make whatever you want with that. The concern we have is when we get into winter, we want to make sure that somebody's taking care of them, and it's not us. So I'll give you the letter. You guys can address it as you please. It gives us enough time this summer to work through the details. At this point, I don't think we're ready to do the final surface on it yet. I think we're better off waiting for a bit yet until we get more houses in there.
Until the construction equipment is not
Correct.
tearing up.
So far, it's not been an issue.
Right.
It's not been an issue with the current construction we have.
So do you have money set aside for surfaces?
We have sources of money, yes, to surface.
I know the county has a specific.
The answer is maybe no. If the county has it, no.
Well, I thought we were gonna look at combining that with paving another county road to try to get it better.
I mean, it happens all the time. It's not gonna be a problem for us. It's just the county has certain specifications when they take over a road, and you're in compliance once you put your surface on. So the only thing we need to do is work out the county's gonna have an expectation of having a surface put on there. We'll have to work out an arrangement. I agree with you. Let's not put the last coat on it until some of the heavier equipment gets in and out. Then if we find a soft spot anywhere, if it happens.
And we can fix it. I hope the answer to that is no, because I'm hoping the prep work we did has eliminated that, but you're correct.
So if we do that, we have an understanding. Basically, I'm assuming you would probably use some of your available TIF money.
That's correct.
Whatever, to
That's
service,
correct.
just so it gets earmarked for that purpose. And then we can bid that with another county project.
But we wanted to start the process, so we didn't want to have to do this in November, knowing we may have snow in December. And then it's a matter of, okay, we're gonna have to find somebody to clean the streets, if you will. So before you leave, I will give you the letter, Andy. So that's it. I have nothing else on the agenda then. I do want to thank you all for coming. I think this was very constructive. I think at least now we have a lot of things to kind of cycle through and decide directions. And hopefully with some support, some money supports and some county supports and our support, that we can continually do. And I think you're correct, Randy. You know, one of the first things we talked about several years ago, growth is the most important thing in any community. Because without growth, you're no longer progressing. We do need workers. We need work, but we also need a sense of community at the same time. And I think we really have them here. I just don't know if we've discovered them very well. So thank you all for your time and your energy putting all that together for us, and at least we now can keep progressing. So with that, I'll call for an adjournment.
So moved.
Second. Thank you all very much.
Hey, John.
One time I was, 2 years ago, I was looking at